Class 8. It is Thursday, March 31st. All right. So, did everyone, well, I guess, Nick, you didn't get a chance to really look at the HTML. David, you said you utilized the resources on the W3 schools. Deborah, you already knew some HTML, right? You already worked with it. Anybody want to show off their page?
I guess I have to send it to you.
Well, you can just show it to us.
Did you
I put it in the repository.
Okay, I'm gonna pull yours down. You want me to show it off?
Sure, go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead.
You might actually be able to view the raw without pulling it down. Oh, well, then you won't have the image, will you?
Mm-mm. Won't take me a second.
I still haven't been started doing my repository. Create the repository. It won't be there yet. So this is the get and then that brings it up. Well, I already have get on here. How does it? I just copy paste that little thing for you to do. It says start from scratch or whatever.
That's good enough for now.
Okay.
We'll have a more advanced good discussion later.
I did use that get removed part of it or whatever, something to grab it.
Hang on, just tell me this up, I'm gonna go ahead and close that door.
Well, this is very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Just what I was hoping to see. That's pretty cool.
There you go.
So I noticed that you went above and beyond, and she actually went and grabbed some JavaScript. Or did you write that JavaScript?
No, I didn't write it. I just grabbed it.
Which one's that?
So see this blinking line right here?
Uh-huh.
Way back in the day, there used to be an HTML tag called blink.
Yep.
It wasn't part of the official spec, but all the browsers supported it. So if you look back at really old pages, you'll see a lot of this blinking stuff. But now the browsers don't support it, so she actually found some JavaScript to make that blink. You could actually do this in CSS or JavaScript. Let's see. We'll look at the source.
The reason they took it out was because they wanted to make a harder separation between what was considered styling and what was structure. HTML should just be structured. Styling should be completely up to the CSS.
So that's the function highlighted that makes that text blink.
Oh, damn. If statements too. What?
Yeah, that's JavaScript. That's a different language.
Yeah, it's not Ruby.
We'll be talking about it some this class, but not too heavily.
What I did in there was just like, I had too many no-nos that you wouldn't do if you were a graphic designer. You know, it's like, you definitely wouldn't do blink.
Right.
I was like, what the heck? Yeah.
Oh, I thought about it.
You thought about it?
JavaScript can run in any browser.
Yeah, I remember the blink. I was like, that's when I typed in it from those. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Way back when, you can't do that now.
It's like the first thing they taught you 15 years ago.
Yeah, you have to go find it.
So, was that it, or did you have any other JavaScript in there?
Code.
That was it.
And then like the vulnerability.
You had a marquee.
Yours wasn't widely accepted enough.
So that's a.
Mine doesn't look that good, so I'll let her.
So she used another element called marquee, which does this.
Scroll.
Oh, was that it right there? No.
Scroll. Yeah.
No, this guy. So, very cool. And yeah, y'all saw my page. Now I feel one upped.
Just for those of you that are wondering, that's what Macy looks like in real life.
That's what?
Macy looks like in real life.
There's an app I have marquee. Alright. It's cool.
Is that
You
before
decide
work
she's
or
that.
after work?
Yeah. That's when I'm debugging. That's when I'm trying to find bugs in my code. I'm just
Yeah.
banging my head on the wall. All right. So yeah, we don't really have much to review. Definitely look into the W3 schools lessons if you haven't for both CSS and HTML. That's a great resource. Yeah, I think today is really just going to be, we're going to do some lecture, and then we're going to spend some time on a couple new exercises, but we're also going to go back to our bank teller and library exercises and spend some more time on those. So, give it to me.
Before we get started, there's some homework stuff that I've been seeing for a while that at first I thought it'd kind of go away on its own, but I want to ask just to make sure everybody knows. What's the purpose of a driver file?
To run the code.
Okay? To run the code. So, if you have, for instance, let's say 3 files in our projects like we do right now. We have I think the last exercise we had a book, a library, and those were 2 separate classes, probably in 2 separate files. And we also had a main.rb file. Which one of those is the driver file? Main.rb. So, all of the execution code, whether it's building a list of instances of books, should go in the main.rb file. It shouldn't go at the bottom of the book.rb file where your class is, or the library.rb file because you're adding books to the class. You should always put all of your running code in the main.rb file. Now, that's just for us right now making simple console applications, all right? I was talking to David a little bit earlier about, what is this, what purpose is this main.rb file serving? And it's basically just giving you an area to play and test the code that you're writing to make sure it works. So we're assigning little algorithms like this, little assignments saying, okay, we'll print out some stuff in this order using the classes that you just wrote, so that you can see the feedback and make sure that it's working properly. Now, the easiest way for us to do that has been to introduce y'all to making console-based applications, taking console input, taking arbitrary lines of text and printing them to the console. But it doesn't have to be a console application. It could be a web application. It could be a desktop application. It could be a mobile application. When you write these classes, like book, like library, you want to write them in such a way that you don't have to worry about having ties to what I refer to as your I/O device, your input-output device. In the case of our applications where we're doing these console applications with the main.rb, we're using an I/O device. What's the I/O device?
Console.
The console. All right? I want to be able to take those same files, book and library, and put them in a web application, not have to change a thing about those files, not to have to change a thing about those classes, write some other code that uses it, and it should work the exact same way. Okay? So, what that means is that I can't have my book class or my library class be in charge of printing output to the console. I can have it build strings. I can have it build text. I can have it return that text to somewhere upon a method being called, but it shouldn't be directly printing anything to a console or to a web page, because then you just hard coupled some reusable class, some reusable object to a specific scenario you might never use. So when you see these libraries, you see DLL files a lot on Windows. You know, you have a lot, most of the time they're under Windows, the Windows folder and stuff like that. On Unix and on Unix machines, you'll see .a files a lot, and on Linux, you'll see .lib files a lot. Those are library files. What those are packaged up bundles of classes that have already been compiled. Okay? They don't have a runner. They don't have a driver class. They don't have a web application. They don't have a console application. But they're classes that are there that do some work, that know how to carry on a specific job, and then when these applications that we write need to use them, we can just include them.
So the exe file is the executable file is the runner. In this instance that we're talking, it would be the main and pull from the library to do its job.
You can think of it that way, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in a compiled application scenario, a .exe file would be the compiled application, and it would link to those libraries and use those classes. And so that's where we get the brunt of our code reuse. If I wanted to, I could package our book and library classes up into a library, and we could do a console application with the same classes. We could do a web application with the same classes. We could do whatever type of application we wanted. But the point is if you make these classes to print out specific logic to the console, or print out HTML because you're sending it to a web page, okay? It doesn't matter how object-oriented your code was. It doesn't matter how well you designed the object relationships. You're probably not going to be able to reuse them. And that kind of sucks. So be careful about that. You can have all the output statements you want in your main.rb file. But with the exception of something we'll talk about later called logging, most of the time, you shouldn't have any statements like that in your code outside of your driver file. All right? Now, I said that we use mainly our main.rb file right now, our console application interactions, to verify that your code's working properly. Okay? We give you a scenario, you run through it, you get to see the output, you get to see it works, we get to see that it works, and you can verify what you're writing is correct. There is another way of doing that, okay? And they're called tests. They're literally just called tests. It's code that tests your code. You have to write it. Yeah, go ahead. What you're looking at here is still Ruby, all right? It is a different taste of Ruby though, in the fact that it's using a plugin called RSpec. Right? It's a gem. Right now, if you want to, because we're going to be using it in this class, if you open a terminal, go ahead and type gem install RSpec. 3 words. It's RSPEC.
Oh, no. What?
Type it, say it again, sorry. I had the song got stuck in my hat.
Did you put it up there? Did it work for everybody?
6 gems were installed.
Not for
Yeah.
mine. Do I have to save it?
No, you put that in your console. switch with me? Okay, so it worked for everybody? Cool. All right. This, if you look, the name of this file is library_spec.rb. Okay? rspec will run any file it has visibility on. That's name ends with _spec.rb. It'll just run the file and assume that you've got tests in there that you want to try. Okay? I have my library class. Let's look at the book spec. I think that one's probably a little bit simpler to start with. So we're not going to make you write tests in this class. We're not going to spend too much time talking about this, but it's important for us to talk about it because think of it from this standpoint. We've been working with a couple of classes, maybe 3 classes at the most, in your homework assignments. It's very easy for you to isolate those classes and test them in a console to make sure that you're getting the output that you expect, right? How hard is it right now for you guys to test your account class for your account homework? Can you easily tell that it does the job that you want it to? Even if it runs, are you sure that it's running the code properly? Are you sure that it's doing what you actually want it to do? And it's because it's in there with a lot of other stuff that's also running. And so if something goes wrong, it's very hard for you to point the finger at what the problem is, right? This particular form of testing is called unit testing. You test one unit at a time, and you test one specific case at a time. If you notice, this has nothing to do with our assignment in here. All right, I don't have rules like, okay, make sure that things were printed out to the console or anything like that. I describe methods. So let's take get author for example. Okay. Let me see, I've got it somewhere. Okay, so I describe a get author method right here, and I say it should return the author of the book. I call the method on the book, and I expect it to equal this author that I defined up here. So it actually does right here, but it's a symptom of this plugin and how it operates. But
well, what I mean is, it's actually Alexander Dumas, not Dumas.
oh, it is Dumas, isn't it? Yep, it sure is.
Alexandria dumbass.
So right here, this guy, this book, is this instance, which was created with this title, this author, okay? And so I'm testing that I can take this instance of this book, say get author, and it equals the author that I expect it to, okay? I just verified that that method does exactly what I think it does, okay?
Where do you see that at? I mean, where do you actually see that it did it for you?
I'm about to show you, yeah. But I wanted to show you that I have one of these for every method.
Oh,
Okay, I have get author, I have get title. I have a check for available. So notice our check for available. What does our available code do? It says, okay, well, is it checked out or not? Well, there's a few different scenarios that go into that, right? If the book is currently checked out, meaning this value is false, then it's going to return me one value, right? If it's not checked out, it's going to return me a different value. So in my book spec here, right, I make a context. I say when the book is currently checked out, and I say before the test run, check out the book. and then it shouldn't be available here. So I expect book.available to be false. If this code runs and I don't get the value I expect to, it blows up. And it dumps a message to the console that combines this text here and tells me exactly what the problem was. So the line that would get dumped to the console is available when the book is currently checked out is not available. And then it'll show that we expected to get this answer, we actually got this answer.
It tells you which line as well.
Yep.
Like kind of like the.
I'll show you the output. So we have this code, we have test files for both book and we have them for library. Okay. So if I go to, do you have a terminal open?
Yeah.
No, you don't. Where is it?
It's been active for sometimes it
Hmm.
sometimes they don't show up. They get like abandoned.
Oh,
It's in documents.
documents.
Cohab. Oh, documents code. Cohab class. Cracking the code exercises.
We'll get there, I promise. All right, so this is it. All right, so if I just type rspec and run it, okay? Can y'all see those green dots on there on the screen? Okay. Every green dot means that one test passed. All right? And then below it, you see, okay, we finished running the tests. It took this long to run. 33 tests ran, 0 failed. Okay? Well, let's change one of these guys. So I'm going to change one of these to be incorrect. Or better yet, I'm going to break the code. So let's go into my library spec. Well, let's modify one in here. Let me see, maybe one book is okay. Book is it. Let's modify checkout. So one of the rules for checkout is that it returns Boolean, right? It returns true if it was successful. It returns false if it wasn't. All right? Well, if it's checked out already, I can't check it out again. So I return false. Okay? So this is my line that takes care of that case. If I remove this line though, I go back to the test, I get a failure. And look at the message that comes out. For the checkout method on book, if the book is already checked out, returns false. We expected to get false, we got true. So then you can check your code and you can go, well shoot, I've got a case missing here. What's the case? If the book is already checked out, if the book is already checked out, if the book is checked out, return false. It's pretty descriptive. It's as descriptive as you make it. So I tend to spend quite a bit of time on these, making sure that they make sense. So that text you saw come out was here, book #checkout. If the book is already checked out, returns false. This test is the one that failed. Okay, so it's pretty cool. I'm going to give you these tests. That way y'all can play with them and run them. Like I said, I don't expect you to write them yet. But we put the line back, all the tests pass. Okay? Now, look at the separation here. Okay? I think the web folder's in here by accident. I'm not sure. Or maybe
No, it's just
our code's in the wrong spot. But either way, the only thing that's required here is the spec folder. And there's a hidden file called .rspec here. And all that is is some options that get passed to it saying, okay, I want it to print out with color, and I want it to require this file called spec helper, which is also a file inside this folder. So inside of the spec folder, all of your spec files, they reside in here. And from the root of your project, you can just say rspec. It looks for a folder called spec and runs any tests in files that end in _spec.rb. And you're done.
Two things. Can you go back to your book example just for a second? I just wanted to try.
I don't think so.
I just want to correlate. That's what I thought. Okay. No, I'm just double checking. I was wondering why it said false, but obviously you can't return. I got you. You can't check out, or you shouldn't be able to check out a book that's already checked out. Yeah.
That's right. At least that's the rule we decided to make for this exercise. So, all right. So,
So do you just save your file with the rspec, an spec after it? No, spec.
_spec.
Yes.
Yeah, that's your test file. So I want to give you these files, and we will get it to where you guys can actually run these. Can I drop these in Slack? Or
How do I get them? You email them to me?
yeah, I emailed them to you.
I've got Slack open, the native.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me do this. I'm going to call this librarian, and I'm going to move the spec folder inside of there. And the hidden rspec file inside of there. Well, I guess you probably wanted them too, didn't you? There we go. Okay. And I'll package this up. That makes a type of package called a tarball. And where should we put this? General, I guess? Random? I'll drop it into random. Let me see. I don't know how to do this.
Just drag the file and
Drag the file?
Mhm.
Okay.
go to all my files, it'll be there. I lied to you.
You did lie to me, and now I'm in worse shape.
Sorry.
Alright, that's fine. We're almost there. You gonna let me do that? Not that. It doesn't like me.
It does not. You gotta drag it like a man.
You drag it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, oh dang it. Alright. So everybody can go download that off of the random channel.
Why I do my phone while I'm in here?
Did you get a storm warning?
No, that was
Amber alert?
No, it was y'all doing that, but I had it open.
Oh. That's funny.
probably the quickest way to do this, is when you download it, it should download to your downloads folder. And if you want, you can just leave it there for now. And you should be able to unpackage it by right-clicking on it, or maybe even double-clicking on it might automatically do it on Mac. It does actually. Yeah, just double-click on it. And it'll give you a folder called Librarian.
It did that for me. It was weird.
Okay. And then what you'll do, copy your library and your book.rb file and your main.rb file, copy all of those files from that exercise into that librarian folder. And I'm going to guarantee you that nobody's code is going to pass the tests. And it's because I cheated. I added some methods. So we'll do those together in class, talk about them, and then we'll see how everybody's code turns out against the tests. I have high hopes. Some of the homework looked really good, so.
Man, what the hell, Bobby? I tried to drag my book over there, and so it opened up a whole new Sublime. Gosh dang it.
I don't think that's what you meant for that.
No, I was
no.
trying to just drag it from Sublime over there.
I know that problem. I have that problem. Do you want to drag for him?
Oh no, he tried to drag the.
He tried to drag the file, and he
The tab
accidentally.
from Sublime.
Yeah.
That just opens it up.
Yes, it did. I didn't want to lose it, so.
We're sure to download it. You already, did you move the?
No, that hadn't yet. Oh, no, okay, where did I say that? Oh, there we go.
Just copy your
Just
file.
drag it in there. Did that work? Oh, it should actually get rid of it, okay. Or not.
Everybody else get theirs dragged, okay? Nick, did you get yours?
Oh, I don't have anything to drag.
Huh?
I didn't do the lab.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I can. Actually, no, I can't send you my files that way.
You gonna help me make keyboard better?
So since we're going over it in class anyway, I'll go ahead and put my files up on Slack, and you can just go download them right quick. Oh, you're not just sitting there, because that's got to be boring. All right. Dang it, that's not it.
Open man page. That doesn't look.
What I'll do is this.
Now, control click on a folder. Go to services. Say terminal tab folder. Bam. You got terminal open to that folder.
You have to control click?
Yeah, or
Or just
you can do it.
do We're fishing.
Yes, sir. Man, that's awesome.
That way I don't have to CD over to it.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a second one in here, and this is going to be the full example with our code files, so you can grab that one, Nick.
Okay.
Me too.
Why y'all doing nothing?
Judy's and help.
Jet.
I don't remember those files.
Okay.
Yeah, I will at least have to.
Oh, dang it. This is ridiculous. I've never had so much trouble dragging anything in my life.
It's a drag, huh? It's a real drag.
It's a real, Macy.
You're doing it wrong.
I know I'm doing it wrong. Come do
You're
this.
pressing too hard.
Am I?
If you feel that second click, is that what's?
Oh, oh,
There you go.
oh, I ran out of trackpad room. Oh God.
I don't know what you're doing now.
Oh, yes.
What? That's all the code.
Yeah, that's the,
That's cheating.
well, it is, but this is an in-class example now anyway, so.
That's true.
Now just drag this in the other library. Or bring it forward.
You can get rid of the other one entirely.
Oh.
I put the code and the spec files there together.
You guys can't live stream. Yeah, that would be nice if we could live
We
stream
could.
class.
Really?
Someone just sent a note.
Oh, really? Who? Christy or?
No, David.
We could technically do it.
Twitch it.
Well, I mean, there's lots of.
Sorry.
We- We could stream now.
You know, we actually have an old product that we wrote that.
It was a full.
Yeah, it says,
It was a
"You
full
guys
streaming
can't live
service.
stream class, can you?"
Currently, only if you're sitting in class can we live stream to you.
Snap. Is everybody good? Easy.
Okay.
Everybody have the code?
Yeah, I have a code. The problem I have is I don't know, like when I was, I get kind of hung up on like the syntax of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I'm sitting here, you know, like when you create a class, and then you like define something, you know. And I'm like, okay, define get books. Then I'm like, okay, then what do I do with that? And I kind of get stuck. I'm like, okay, I have these books, but then, you know, how do I call them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, later on in my coding. And that's where I kind of get stuck because I'm like, how do I know I'm doing it right?
Yeah. Well, tests like this help a lot.
can't
with
even
that.
spell.
Unfortunately, without that, just about the only way to test is to run your code. You know, to make something that calls it and run it. We had a talk about that in the last class session about not trying to write your whole application at once, you know.
And see, that's me.
Write a small piece and then
Right.
test it and write another small piece. Verify all the steps as you go. Everybody good? Okay. If you go into your terminal, I hope that you are inside of your folder. If you type RSpec by itself and hit enter, it should run your tests. You saw the splodies, didn't you?
I started out with a bunch of greens and then it went F. Green, 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 F, F, green, F.
You ran the one you just pulled down, the second one?
No, he's running his code.
Okay. Yeah.
So there are a few differences between my code.
He added some methods.
I added some extras to make it actually easier to test. Let me see here. There are not significant changes. I'll bring it up here and show you.
Hey, guys, real quick, these gyms, people spend a lot of time doing that, creating that code to help other people just to do these things.
Yep.
Okay.
So
That's how the open source community works.
They don't even take recognition
Oh, they get recognition.
either. Oh.
all right, so we have our book in our library right here. So I pretty well made sure I followed all the same restrictions that I gave y'all, all the same returns, all the same method names, stuff like that. Those are the important pieces of this. I did add a couple of methods to library. Okay, I added these two. Very simple methods. I wrote a method to check to see if the library had any books in it, just called empty question mark. And I wrote one to see what is the actual count, what is the number of the books that are in the library. I think those are the only two that I added.
Define empty. Are we copying this? Am I taking this note?
Yeah, copy it. Because there are tests that test those methods and they're never going to pass unless you add those. So
Very well.
So if you've added those, try running your tests again. And don't forget to save when you do.
There's some code in there, I'm not able to read it, like that map array.
That is a method he wrote down here. So this unfolds basically to this. So let me do this. All right. So right here, these are going to be available. So you've seen the select block and stuff before. So this is going to, I'll get rid of the variable, it doesn't really matter here. This is going to run through all of the books and select just the ones that are available. That returns an array. And then you can call map on the end of that. And what was it calling down here? Title. Yeah, get title. And what that does is it goes through all of them, creates a new array with just the book titles in it, and returns that.
And that's the ones that are available.
That's the ones that are available, yeah. So I'm chaining these two together here. So if this select statement weren't here, it would get all the titles for all of the books. But I'm only getting the titles for the books that have already been returned in this set. And a quick and easy way to write it is if you don't have a condition, you see, here's a complex comparison like this with the double equals and stuff. If you don't have one like that and you have these simple ones, like these simple instructions, like is it available, get title, that kind of thing, you can actually reduce this
Oh, you gotta change your,
to
Oh, in library?
to that. That's the same thing.
That looks great.
But-
Hey, don't forget you changed your initializer too.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else actually did it,
Yeah, that's something that wasn't in the requirements either. Let me put this code back right here.
So you downcase it because if we kept it
Nah, real quick.
uppercase, then they would not be
Into it
equal.
for a reason.
Like
It-
if you have.
If someone was looking for a title that was all lowercase, it wouldn't match with one that had cases, different cases, correct?
Here, it doesn't matter.
It's the, which
So you do
initializer?
an actual just an assignment, as an assignment.
Right here?
This is saying, this is a optional parameter.
So the books initializer, we made a change there to where we take in a variable called books with a default parameter of an empty array. So if they provide books, then we will start off with those books in the library. If they don't provide it and they just say library.new and they go on, then it will start with an empty array as books instead of nil. So that's the other alteration that we made for the tests, because I like testing with actual objects in mind. And so if you look at the test file, right here, you'll see that I do that. I made a list of books here with my typoed name. Hate that I did that. It's one of my favorite books.
Me too.
Love that.
Check out, the book is already checked out, returns false. Your checkout method.
And you'll see I provide the list of books here. I know this syntax and stuff looks very, very odd, very, very funny. That's because RSpec includes a DSL, which is a domain-specific language. So like describe, context, it, all those are keywords that are specific to RSpec and don't exist in the Ruby language by default. So is let and stuff like that. But a lot of tests you see won't be this clean. A lot of unit test frameworks. I love this framework, RSpec, because it's so descriptive about what you're testing. Yeah, I mean, someone can almost use this as documentation to find out what classes do. You know, what their roles are, what their rules are. And a lot of times these tests are easier to follow than the actual source code is. Is something wrong?
17 failures.
That sounds like a typo.
Yeah, thanks. It probably is.
Complain about that.
You sure you're editing the right file?
Well, shouldn't it update to the new? We did get rid of one error, so we had 18, now we're down to 7.
Yeah, that was in your book. Class not gonna lie.
Yeah, the actual file that's there still hasn't been modified. This is a buffer of the wrong file. You had this guy open embedding, not this guy.
Oh, I sure did. Okay.
That's a lot of different errors, so you need your
I don't know if my main is open to that either then. Oh, we're not running main, we're just doing, oh yeah, we are, we're doing them all. I have
This
that.
doesn't test your main. This just has book alignment.
Oh.
that's a lot better. Yeah, those are actual failures in your code now.
Well, I did type that stuff, but I must have saved it under.
You saved it in the other file, so Ooh.
You just know. Alright, so let's read one of these. Read the first one.
I'm a little teapot, short and stout.
So what do you think of that?
Here's my handle, here's my spout.
So, first,
Let's take a look.
Wow, I just recorded that. Oh God.
where do you see that?
Go to
Proving that?
Yeah, there were a few things on there.
Tell you what, people following this course after the fact are gonna be wide-eyed quite a bit of the time, aren't they?
where was it? Under admin.
Oh, is this the library? Oh, yeah.
So, take a look at the test. This is the text that it returned to us, right? Saying it should only return books which are not checked out. But, the actual test that he wrote, this grabs the first book, checks it out, right?
Okay.
And then, when the test runs, it expects, all these available books to equal, books that last, so he's only got 2 books, that's why this test works. Which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, our test is broken, so let's go look at our,
So, because I have more than one book, or more than, yeah, 2 books.
well, it looks like, your checkout didn't work, maybe. We'll have to see.
Maybe it's not saved, maybe the book's not saved under the right.
Or maybe your available books isn't even written.
Go up to the top. Just because he has no value for checked out to begin with.
No, this is library class. Shouldn't this have a method called available books?
Yeah.
Do you see one? Find book, empty book, count the book, does add book.
I don't see what it is.
Yeah, so that method's not, why did it tell you that? Why didn't it say not implemented? It's kind of,
It should say not implemented.
Hold on. See, I put availability in the main file.
Like,
you should have a method on your library class called available books. And that should return a string array, or an array of strings.
I had it.
Now that's on your book.
let's see real quick. I'm gonna see what the error is outputting because it will tell you if the method's not implemented. Yeah, undefined, no method error.
Okay.
Undefined method checked out books.
What is that down at the bottom? It's like a summary.
Yeah, this is a summary. These are the full dumps
Okay.
of all the errors that occurred. So the error, the first one is for the available books check, it returns only the books which are not checked out. And it's failing right now because it says there's no method error on undefined method available books.
So that was the array, to string.
It returns the titles of all books.
Yeah, return the titles of all the books that are not checked out. So you gotta do a couple things there.
This is kind of where I took my notes, kind of started with something simple,
What is available?
exactly, I was just taking a note and I didn't start.
Well, what do we know we have, right? We've got an array of books. That's all we know for sure. So, what we need to do is, search through those books and grab the ones that are not checked out, right? And then return those as an array. Let's go ahead and, we're gonna, alright. So there's an array method called select.
Oh, I did that, and I did find.
Yeah, find, so that returns.
When I was finding the book title.
Put the documentation on the deal.
I think I still have it up. Yeah, there's the find and select.
The select return all the ones that meet your select on an array returns all the ones that match your
condition.
trait inner. Alright, so that's what we're gonna use, so.
We're still doing at books.
Call method, the method is called select.
Now, I'll put whatever I wanna call. Let's just call it. To keep it simple. Book again.
So what is your iterator? I need a condition here. So what are we checking? Checking.
Available or,
Yeah, one on the book are we checking?
yeah, check it out. Yeah.
What's the method on the book?
Check it out. Oh, that one. Okay. I see what you're.
Yeah, we're not gonna write logic for the book that's already written in the book class. We're gonna use what's available to us in the book class, right? Because we don't have access to that checked out instance variable, right?
So why did this give me?
Oh, you're
error?
saying-
We have to use that method, that's the only way we know.
Jeremiah, on,
So, but I need to
What
set
about
that.
the,
I'm
book
gonna have to set that equal to something.
file that you did?
I'm not trying to compare it to anything.
you know, if you just
Like
add
in my find,
books.
like in the find when I was trying to
And
compare
put
it.
the error.
That's why I did that.
Yeah, exactly.
Undefined.
But I don't need to do that when
check
it's
out.
select, because I'm looking for one thing.
Well, you don't have to do it because it's a boolean here,
Oh.
but you do need to say, you need one more thing here. What is available?
Books or at
On
books.
line 42.
Mhm.
It's a
I
method.
imagine found right there is no array.
No.
And so when you try
Available
calling
is
check
an
out
error
on
on
it,
your
it doesn't know
book
what
class,
to
right?
do, and so it's blowing out.
So your book
So
object
what that
is a
means
method
is that
you
there's
can
either
call
something wrong with your find book
available.
method,
that returns.
or that it's not actually finding the book by the
The book is
title you're
checked out.
providing.
So go back to.
So this is, it's looking for a
So-
specific title.
Yes.
This one.
Okay, so that's why I had to change all that on book.
It needs to be a title of a book that's already in the library.
Oh, I see.
So now, it's gonna loop through each one of these, books in your array. It's gonna return the ones where this condition is true. So when book not available returns true, meaning the book is not checked out, those will be in the array that get returned.
Hmm.
So you were also missing checked out books.
In there. Anyways, no, I think I didn't get to it yet. Oh, I did it by telling you whether or not it was in or out. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Okay. So, but how does it know to look for that? It doesn't, right? Because we haven't written it. Then the test, how does the test know to? Because other code is supposed to.
No, the test doesn't expect these methods to exist.
Oh.
Tests were written to that spec, plus a couple things he added that we didn't update this for, but,
Okay.
yeah, that's why your test is failing, it's calling a method, it doesn't exist.
It's telling you basically need to provide the method.
So if we rerun this now, you can save this, you should have one less error.
Well, let's see, it's testing off his Count of Monte Cristo.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's just what's in that.
It's not running your main file.
guess I'm not understanding where it's getting the test, that's what I'm saying.
So he's at the very beginning of this test, he's creating an array
One other question.
with 2 books
Sure.
in it. And that's these 2 books. And he's using that array in all the
So I got it to
test below.
go as far as showing the
What,
check.
so what did he, okay, but what did he write as opposed to what's already in the
Why am I not-
He just had to add these to get it started?
Cause it's not
So
showing.
is that what you're saying?
It just ends.
I guess I didn't
Yeah.
understand that, I didn't know he set this up.
Do you
I
have
thought
books
this was
that
part
are
of the
checked
spec,
out?
Jim.
Yes.
No.
Here.
The spec gem just takes this file
In
and
fact,
runs it
2.
against your
Bible
code.
and
So
Bible and
this is a
Bible.
really descriptive way of testing. So
Should be checked
each
out.
one of these, he's
Cause it shows the
Jeremiah is
2 available.
explicitly set up to run. Each one of these is a test, right? So where you see
My list of books are these 4 books. Right, going down
that's a
to the
test.
Bible,
That's a test.
Percy Jackson,
Here's
Dry
what
Star.
you get.
Good selections.
That's a test.
He wrote
Then,
all this?
it goes through.
Oh.
the ones
See, that's
that
what I was,
checked
that's what I was
out.
asking about, I thought the R spec
Searching
kind
for
of
books and
took
then
what you
shows
already
the
had.
No, it
available
doesn't generate
books. It's
anything.
only-
I don't know how ways to
two
generate
books.
tests, but.
Oh.
What I should have done,
Oh,
but
shoot, okay.
I can't get it to show the checked out books.
I need to go back.
You said you removed the book that was checked out?
Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm s-
Yeah, you're removing the one that's
That's
checked
new
out right
ones.
there.
Mhm.
Because of that.
When you remove it from the library, it's actually not in the library anymore.
So it's not gonna show up at all.
It's not gonna show at all.
Now, is there a way for me to,
You can check out a different book, or you can add that one back.
okay.
Expected that, got
Oh, this is, that string array and book array is still different too. He actually wrote his test wrong.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
I updated the test.
Did you? Well, then you wrote your manual.
Yeah, it's looking for an array of strings right there.
Okay, sorry. Alright, so here's what your method returned. Okay, he actually got a book. What he expects, and if you look up there, you'll see an array of strings. And it was supposed to return an array of just the book titles. So you see where it expects. You sure? Okay, no. Sorry, I'm confused. We did this earlier when it was reversed. Alright, so he expected again just an array of the titles. What he got was an array of the actual book object. So we need to change your,
Is that where my dot A, is that where my 2A?
no, you're returning an array. This returns an array, alright? The problem is, we need to now take those books and map the titles, just the titles, to a new array. Do you remember the map function?
I was hoping it was no.
So the map function does kind of what we did here, it loops through each object in an array, and it creates a new array based on the property that you select. So in this case, we want the title, so we want to take each book, create a new array, or a new object in an array with its title.
You see, that's an example of where your main file, your runner file, was actually working properly, but the code actually was flawed, because you still see the titles in the console when you print them out, don't you?
Yeah, because I put the get book list that books to array.
Well, it's because the book has this toString method on it.
Yeah.
And when you pass an object that has a defined toString method on it, to puts, the code inside of puts calls toString on that object. And you've defined something for that, and that's what gets dumped to the console. But it's doing that even though you're giving it back an array of books instead of an array of strings. We were supposed to return an array of strings, and each of those strings be dumped to the console. So you were getting a false positive from your runner, but the test caught that there was actually a problem.
Huh.
This act right here, book is already an array, so you're calling to array on an object that's an array, which returns the same array. So it doesn't break, but it also doesn't do anything meaningful.
Well, I couldn't get it to run there, and that's what I was kind of getting at when I was asking the question earlier this
Test
morning.
pass too?
Yeah, well, of course,
Well,
but now
let's,
you're,
let's focus on this.
you're thinking
Yeah,
that I'm.
gotcha.
Oh, gotcha,
So,
gotcha.
Again,
Math.
happen. So we want to take the return of this statement.
Yeah, I run my
You know,
tests,
right.
like,
Oh.
seriously, I'm obsessive about it at work.
Mhm.
We,
Just add
for one of our projects, we,
return.
Let's-
for instance,
so we
our
can take
API,
the return of this
for
line,
Sky Coach,
right? And
that's
this
one
Oh,
of
it's gonna be returned. I get what you're saying.
So
It's
let's-
already-
4 or
let's set- yeah,
5,
well,
6 different
yeah.
applications
This is
we
the
use for
line
the
that gets returned.
the whole thing.
But this
And
call
just it
still
has
returns
north
something,
of
right? So let's save it to
1,600
it, so let's
tests.
do a variable, just a local variable.
Just it. And I run them several times a minute.
Or something.
Every few lines of code I change, I run my tests again to make sure I haven't broken anything.
Just, yeah, copy that line.
It's just a good habit.
Instead of waiting. See, that's my thing. I just
Now, I guess
trying to
that's
write
where I'm
everything,
What does
and
that
then go
actually
through
do?
the line, and then I'm
Just
like
give me a variable to call that?
pulling my hair out
Yeah.
because I'm, you know, I can't
So you
find
use
where
And
I'm breaking.
and that is the way most people start, had to debug these big applications too, until they came up with automated testing. And now you can write code that tests your code in a much better way than you can test it,
Right.
And so
What's
it,
available right now?
you get to sandbox your code, test it in a safe environment outside of the application.
My books
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
are being checked for
It
availability.
makes sense.
Yeah, the check's already been done, so you should have all your available books in this array. So now we need to just return an array with those books titles. So we're gonna do available dot map. And it's similar to that.
Of this.
While we're getting everybody caught up, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here. We'll pick back up here in a minute after our break. And we'll start looking at some JavaScript frameworks and some CSS frameworks.